Hello, welcome back to the In Crowd, Diagonal Media's show where we feature folks that are in the film and TV and media industries. And today on the show, Avi Youabian. Hello, Avi.
Hello. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, so good to have you, Avi. And actually, you happen to know Garrett, who is our partner and chief operating officer. You met on a film, and so that's how we got connected to you. So it's so awesome because Garrett's right over there. He's running the whole behind the scenes show here. I really appreciate you being here, Avi. And I'm just going to tell the audience a little bit about you. You are an award-winning director, and you've worked on some of the top performing shows across broadcast, cable, and streaming: Blacklist, Walking Dead, The New MacGyver, Quantum Leap, Magnum PI, so many more. I mean, people have to go to IMDb and look up Avi, and maybe even get IMDb Pro. Okay, you can get a lot more statistics. And but prior to directing, actually, Avi, you were an editor in film and TV, and you cut your teeth, so to speak, developing a strong sense of story and character. And you were working for Greg Berlanti, and you did feature films with Halle Berry and John M. Chu. So I just wanted to give a quick, brief recap of your resume.
Thank you.
So really awesome to have you here. Thank you for joining us. I guess
an honor, man. Thank you for that.
My first question, and what we like to talk about on the In Crowd, is really just like how you got where you are today. And I guess, what were you like growing up? Were you always into movies? Were you always into TV? Did you filmmaking?
I came to the States when I was about 7, 8 years old, and I got my hands on my uncle's VHS camcorder and then begged my dad to get us one, and then was making movies with my brother and my cousins all the time. And like really stupid stuff. Like, it was more like, hey, what if we put you on that rug and then do a stop motion film and then make it look like you're traveling across the living room floor? Or how can we teleport you from this room to there? And it was just like playing with it. I never had any sense of it being a career. And then years later, I ran into Randall Kleiser, who is best known for directing the movie Grease. And I was like, wait a minute, you did this as a career. A light bulb went off. I'm like, wait, I could do this. How can I do that? And he actually just said, start interning. That's the best way to start. Just like start interning at a post facility or a movie, whatever you get your hands on. And that's exactly what I did. I worked at a commercial house right after high school. And that internship led to an assistant editing job, which led to an editing job. And then I was fortunate enough to cut a movie where I met Garrett. And the rest is history. Really, that's where it started. It was just like getting my foot in the door.
So when you were working, do you have any of those VHS tapes? Do you have any of those movies still anywhere?
Do I have that? No. There's somewhere in storage. I'd have to dig them out, and maybe this is the time to do it during this during the writers actor strike. Maybe now is the time to like go back into storage and dust off all these old Super 8 films and VHS tapes. I had like 3/4 inch tapes. I don't know if your audience
like beta, like is it Betamax or something like this? Like
it was like pre-beta. It's like even thicker, and oh my god. Anyway,
I know what you're talking about, Avi. I got you with the like VHS, and then we moved into like mini DV at some point.
I have all those formats sitting somewhere with old cameras. I have to just dig them out. But that's it. And actually, a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, what's the way to break in?" I'm like, you just gotta do it. Just like get your toe in there somehow. And I was interning at a really cool, prestigious commercial house, and music videos would come in all the time. And I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to learn the Avid.
What did you like the most about it when you were first discovering this medium of storytelling?
To be honest with you, I love technology. I was really fascinated by the tech, and then quickly learned like, oh, everything that everyone does on a set, the crew, the writers, the DP, director, it all gets funneled down to this one guy who's sitting in this chair, and he's kind of the gatekeeper. And seeing the puzzle come together really just like, it was like the spark for me. I was like, oh, this is the puzzle that's just being put together now. And I loved watching editors' timelines. I would literally sit there and like watch their cut and then play it back play back their timeline just to see how they would create specific type of L cuts or J cuts or cross dissolves or overlap multiple layers. Just, looking at the rhythm of things. To me, it was like it's the matrix code of an edit, right? We've all seen that giant timeline for a movie. I was just fascinated by the DNA of the cut, and just again wanting to play with the technology and getting into it.
So we are predominantly a post house. We do a lot of editing, a lot of animation design. We film some stuff too. So I think from your perspective, what is the key to a brilliant edit?
I don't think it has anything to do with the edit. I think it's the story, and you need compelling characters that you care about. That's it. That's it. It's that simple. Like, who are the characters? Who can I anchor myself to? And what's this journey that they want? And you can have a really bad edit of a great story. It's just a great story, and you can have it finessed and polished. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a good story with great characters, you've already lost. You can have the best editor and cinematographer in town. You got a bad story. Like, I'm not invested. That's it. Otherwise, I'm just if it's a story that I'm not invested in, you've lost.
Maybe just to dive a little further into from a technical perspective as an editor. I mean, you've edited so much. Yes, the story is important, but maybe if on the other side, is there anything that an editor can do to help a story?
You're not a button pusher. I'll always take it back to this movie with Garrett, just because I love Garrett and I had a blast working with him. The reason I got that job on The Call, it was a movie with Halle Berry. She plays a 911 call operator.
I like that film.
I'm really proud of it. And it was one of those films that was shot from different perspectives in the movie. And there was this one scene in particular when I first read the script and I interviewed with the director, Brad Anderson. I was telling Brad, I was like, oh, there's one scene in the movie that you don't need. It's the only time where the audience is ahead of the story. Mm-hmm. And later when we were having beer, he actually told me, he's like, oh, I met with a lot of editors. You're the only one who came in with a point of view and actually gave me notes before we started shooting. And I was like, really? That's why you hired me? That's great. But it was just like an editor or any filmmaker, whether you're a costume designer, script supervisor, DP, PA, like, come in with a point of view, come in with a grasp of the story. And then as an editor, you're not talking about the fine tune of the L cuts or J cuts or how we're going to do the sound design section. It's more like, I'm always stepping back. Like, let's look at the story. How do we make this more engaging for the audience? And in that case, the audience is leaning in, trying to figure out what's going on versus leaning back going, well, I already know what's happening. We're just waiting for Halle Berry to catch up to the story. And that's what it was. It was just Halle Berry was behind the audience at one point. I was like, no, the audience needs to be with her. We have to play it from her perspective. And the scene never made the final cut. It was great.
So we predominantly do corporate video, but we also have dabbled in commercial and narrative and documentary. But I do think that that's a universal truth, that you have to find the story and the narrative, and the editor is there to assist the audience and get that audience to lean in. That is an awesome tip. And also not let the audience get ahead of the characters of the story, right? So I want to talk a bit about your transition from editor to director and why that's such a natural transition. I mean, knowing the DGA is a tough world to break into. It's kind of there's many paths, right? You could, like, I don't know, in New York, a lot of people like go the location manager path, or they do the coordinator, production supervisor, line producer. There's like all these different ways to get in, or they do the second AD thing where they have to go through the DGA trainee program and work their way up that way. But you came from the editing world.
Yes.
Can you tell us how that kind of happened?
Well, let me just first say, like, I don't think there's one clear path. A lot of people approach me like, oh, what do I have to do? What's the path? I'm like, everyone has their own path. I was very fortunate to have been in the edit bay with a lot of producers over the years as an editor. I had what I would call great access to the gatekeepers who hired those directors. And some of the filmmakers that I had edited for in the past just recognized my skills and talents and gave me opportunities. that's like the short version of it. It was kind of like, okay, I'm editing for you. You trust me as a filmmaker and as a storyteller. This is what I want to do. This is the next muscle I want to flex. Can you help me get there? And that's the kind of like the short version of it. It's like, all right, hey, I had access. And I know a lot of people who don't have that same access, but there are script supervisors, there are cinematographers, there are camera operators who are on the ground with those showrunners, producers, other filmmakers that hire directors. So for anyone who's listening, I don't think like they should just go, oh, I want to be a director, so let me get my foot in the door with editing. It's like, no, find your passion outside of filmmaking, director label, and just like pursue that first. And then hopefully you can find your way to the director's chair.
That's awesome advice. And I guess my question to you is, and this has a little bit to do with like the chicken and the egg phenomenon of like getting in the DGA, and like how does that work?
A lot of people ask about the Directors Guild or getting an agent or a manager. It's like none of that matters. I went to film school and I was like, I just need an agent. I just need an agent, and I'm in. And it's like, it's not how it works. Actually, like what you need is a proof of concept, a short film or something like that, so that people go, oh, you are a storyteller, you're a filmmaker, I will hire you. And once you are hired by a production, you're immediately invited to join the DGA. It's not hard to get into the Directors Guild. What's hard is getting your first job, and what's even harder is getting your second job. We can talk about that later. But getting your first gig doesn't come out of getting a membership of the DGA or maybe a manager or an agent. And I think it's a misconception out there. Everyone's kind of like, oh, I just need an agent and then I'll book the job and I'll get the, it's like, no, right now in this day and age, you can create the content yourself. I was talking to a few friends the other day, and we were talking about Steven Soderbergh, who took $1 million of his own money. And I know that sounds easy for everybody. You just take $1 million, but he went out and shot a film with his iPhone. I want to say 90% of it takes place in an insane asylum or a ward or something like that. And the point of the story is he spent $1 million and made the movie. And he was like, I'm going to shoot the whole thing with an iPhone. And their camera rig was like a tray filled with different iPhones, and they had like different lenses on them, those little adapters you can buy. Yeah. So he was like, all right, let's pull the 10 millimeter out. And then they had a wheelchair, and that was his dolly. He was the operator. And I saw the movie, I was like, man, the guy who was responsible for Ocean's 11 and 12 and Sex, Lies, and Videotape, all these like great movies, both independent, studio-based, took the time to go, I just want to create, and I want to create it on my own dime, and it's going to be experimental. And the movie, I believe, sold for like 10 or $11 million at some festival. And if you guys haven't seen the movie, I urge you to go, first of all, buy it, support the film, and watch it and go into it. There's no excuse. Cannot be a director. Like, why not? If you want to be a filmmaker, you just have to go do it.
Right.
These iPhones shoot at 4K resolution now.
Yeah. It's a little scary, a little bit scary, I must say.
What's your excuse? Like, there's no excuse.
No.
Right now, during the strike, a couple of our friends, the reason we were talking about that, I was like, why don't we just go and shoot something? Like, let's just go to shoot a short film, proof of concept for a pilot that we're all hammering to make. Let's just go shoot something right now. Everyone, it's fascinating how so many people are excited and willing to just go, yeah, I'm available. Come on, let's do it.
Back to the human element and working with actors. Do you have any tips as a director? How do you work with actors? That's always something that I'm wondering about. A lot of actors turn director, right? It's like because they're like,
yeah,
they know the language, but if you're coming from another avenue, how do you learn the language?
You know what? I actually took some acting classes very early on just to be able to speak to them. And to this day, I'm learning more and more, learning how to communicate with less words. I find that a director's job in regards to working with actors, most of your work is done in prep. When you're casting and you're talking to them about the character and the arcs and how much you want to reveal at the beginning. No, let's not cry in this scene because it's early in the story. We want to save that till the end. It'll just be more cathartic. And of course, let's just make sure it's earned. You talk about that during prep, so that when you're on set, you already have like a shorthand. the most important thing on set is to make sure your actors feel safe, allowing them to prep. I mean, not prep, to play. When I do rehearsals, it's usually 90% of the time it's a private rehearsal. Everyone gets broomed out.
Everyone? Like, is it just you and the actors?
Me, the script supervisor, the DP is there watching us block it just in case he's thinking about cameras or lights, and I just want him to see the process. Sometimes he'll invite his camera operators as well. DP, script supervisor, camera operators, and me and the actors, and the ADs watching it too. And we'll rehearse, and once I make sure that all the actors are on board and they're like, cool, I'll always turn to the DP and I go, you okay with that? Because he's already kind of seeing all the lines and where the cameras are going to be. Check with him. Cool. Let's invite the crew, and then the crew will come and watch it, and then they'll put down marks. But that immediately that like safe space of rehearsal without having the entire crew standing there with their arms crossed and watching you guys work, doesn't allow the actors a lot of freedom to either go, I don't disagree, or, hey, how about this? Because, when you're on a film set, and I'm sure you've heard this, the most expensive thing on film set is time. That is literally the most expensive thing. It's just a clock that's running down. So when you are being watched by everybody, you're like, there's just like this layer of, I don't want to slow down this train. But a private rehearsal says, no, this is the time that we've taken to play. Again, I said I learned every day. One of the things I learned from an actor was using the word let's play. Instead of going, all right, everyone, let's go, which puts everybody at attention on set. He's like, all right, here we go. Everyone's like, oh, let's straighten up. If you just use the words like, okay, guys, let's play, kind of creates this like relaxing energy, this vibe of like, oh yeah, we're just playing. It's all make-believe, cameras, and it's just fun. And
right.
You get better performances. Yeah.
Having done some, I was production coordinator. Yeah.
I think I answered your question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was great. That was phenomenal. Learning a lot, honestly. And as a coordinator back in the day, there was in episodic TV. So you've done a lot of episodic TV, and maybe you go in for 1 or 2 episodes, and sometimes there's like a prepping episode and a shooting episode, and you're there for the week before prepping, and then you shoot the next week. And what I always found fascinating was the directors that succeeded or got the positive sentiment of the crew, because you're walking into kind of an established family, if you will, for lack of a better term. These people that have maybe been together for 10 seasons, and you're walking in and you're like this new director, you show up. How are you successful in those situations?
You're a guest, and those successful directors, I feel their track record is like, how do I come back? How do I get invited back to play in this family? And thankfully, I was an editor first, so I learned a lot from these great directors, and I learned from the people who made mistakes, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. And the most basic, simple element is learning the show that you're on. And I'm not talking about just like the visual language and the style of the show, but learning the dynamics. And sometimes I just show up and I ask the DP or the producer or the AD, and I go, so what are the rules here?
Right.
And that's enough. And that, you know what? They are always open to say, all right, here's how it works. And they'll fill you in on the actors on the show. They'll tell you about the executive producer and how those people like to be engaged or not be engaged. And that's it. Like, you just got to like read the room on a huge scale.
Right.
And if you're smart enough, you've called a lot of your other director friends who've directed on that same show, let's say The Blacklist, and you go, okay, hey, I noticed you directed seasons 3 and 4. Tell me, what's the vibe on that show? Or you go on another show that, is a first season show, and you just like look up some of the crew members or a showrunner or a writer on that show. You're like, hey, I'm going to be working on the show. What can you tell me? Can we grab coffee? Can we just hop on a call? So you're doing your homework to essentially read the room before you get there. And I can tell you, I've done that on every single show I've directed. Every single show.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Because it's a high pressure situation you're kind of walking into, and so you're just kind of like, it's a chameleon. You're almost like going in and just kind of, but you're also bringing your knowledge and your talent because they brought you in for a reason.
But you know what? You're not there to reinvent the wheel. Right. When I did, I'll keep going to Blacklist because you guys are in New York. Like when I went to season, was it 8 or 9? I wasn't there to go, okay, so here's what I'm thinking the show needs to be.
Drone shots, and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And
No, it was, okay, cool. What's the budget that you're working with? Tell me a little bit about James and how he likes to work. Mm-hmm. And what's the story? All right, great. Well, how are we going to make this the best damn version of the script that I inherited? How do I elevate it, enhance it? And, it's not to say you can't pitch ideas. I did a bunch of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's your job as a director, to come in and go, cool, I love this story. How can I elevate it? How do I enhance the storytelling? Oh, maybe we can do this cool stylish thing here and there. And sometimes they love it, sometimes they hate it. But knowing to fold those cards, or going, oh, you guys love that, I also have this other crazy idea. And I actually kind of live for that. Working on a show where they invite you in and help you sort of elevate the standard, or like elevate from what the pilot was. To me, that's like the biggest win. To say, oh, cool, man, that's great. Try that. Let's do it. And then you get the AD and the DPs all excited about it. And you create this infectious energy with your crew. And then you're on set, you're having a blast.
Right. Yeah. I had a great UPM that said, well, the creative has to match the budget. Right. And we say that a lot too. At Diagonal, people come in and they're like, can we do 6 filming days or things with this? And it's like, well, what do you have to spend? And they're like, well, and you're like, I know, I think it's going to be virtual. It's going to have to be, we're going to have to record that on Zoom. And if you want the helicopter crashing into the East River, no, it's going to be a Honda driving into the the Hudson.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to look at the budget first. You were asking me about those directors who are successful. They also come in and go, cool, okay, all right, let's figure it out.
Right,
it's going to be great. I did a Quantum Leap episode, season 1, and we had a car crash sequence, and I took the time to storyboard the whole sequence out. And we were looking for the locations, and just, after about 3 days of prep, it was quick. We quickly found out, like, we just couldn't afford to do a proper crash in LA with our schedule. And I just said, well, what if it's a completely visual effects shot? Let's take the money that we're trying to set aside for this crash with all the cuts and just do it with one elegant shot. And it will be completely CG. We'll go out, we'll shoot a plate, and then we'll just add the car in there, and it'll tumble. And as soon as it makes impact, we'll smash cut to titles. That'll be it. And we were just in a room scratching our heads, talking about permits, what trees we were allowed to damage along the way, because there are a lot of protected trees here in California. And I just remember going, okay, let's look. Remember The Revenant? Remember when Leonardo DiCaprio's on his horse and he like goes over the cliff? And it's just one elegant visual effects shot. Why don't we do that with a car? Why can't we do it? Literally, like, pulled it up on YouTube on a Zoom like this, showed it to all the producers and the executives, the visual effects artists, and they were like, yeah, we could do that. Let's just find the location, shoot a drone plate, and then we'll add the car. And that's the way it ended up in the episode. It turned out great. And it allowed me an extra day of shooting because I wasn't worried about that stunt being in my 8-day schedule. I was like, oh, let's just punt that to a visual effects team. And then I have more time to shoot the story with the actors.
I want to open it up to the team at Diagonal very shortly, but my last comment here is on your Instagram as well. It says, work hard and be nice to people. And I think that's amazing. Yeah. And, I don't think there's not much to extrapolate on that. It's very clear. But if that's how you are operating, that's pretty awesome.
I was a PA on a few commercial productions back in the day. I just remember the way I was treated because I was a PA, and I was like, oh God, why are these people assholes to PAs? But you immediately see them turn around. It was a chocolate commercial. I'll never forget this. It was a European chocolate commercial that was filming in Burbank. And I think I got like a coffee order wrong. And the producer was just like making fun of me in front of the agency clients that were there. I was like, what? Who is this guy?
Right.
And it was something that just always stuck with me. And so when I'm on a film set, if I ever meet PA, I make sure to look them in the face, shake their hand, go, what's your name? Thanks for being here. Just showing them the same respect, because I know why they're there, and I was there. I was that young kid at one point. So you'll understand. I hope most people will just get it. It's like, just be nice to people. They'll want to go to battle with you when you're on a film set where it starts to rain or the equipment stops working, and you know what? You just need an extra 15 minutes, and everyone's not looking at their clock, going, "Oh God, I want to be home right now." They want to see you win, and also just be nice to people. So it's really not that hard. It's free. It's literally free. It doesn't cost a single thing. Just be nice to people.
We got a question from Maria. Maria on our team wants to know, what inspires you as a director?
Ooh, what inspires me the most is when I see a movie or a TV show and the filmmakers have taken a giant swing, something that's just unconventional, maybe one camera move or a non-conventional way to shoot a shootout sequence. To use an example, there was an episode of The Ozark, one of my favorite TV shows, where Jason Bateman's character is going inside the house and the camera stays outside and it tracks with him as he turns off the lights and he's going to his bedroom. There's just this beautiful Frank Sinatra song playing. And I remember watching that going, what an interesting choice. Normally you'd want to walk in with the person, there would be maybe a couple cuts here to sort of accent the song that's being played, but the whole thing was just kind of played in a gorgeous wide master. And I know that sounds so simple.
Different. It's different.
And there was either two reasons why they did that. One, it was a choice because they had to. They ran out of time. They're like, well, let's just tell the story from outside. Or they said, oh, you know what? Let's make him inaccessible. Let's not go inside. Either way, it just a little bulb went off. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to approach that story. There was another great show on the Stars Network called Counterpart. No one watched it, but it was beautifully done. It was amazing world building. And if you watch the first season, you're just going, wow, amazing storytelling, very slow burn, cutting style. You fall in love and you anchor yourselves to the entire world. And then by I believe season 2, you're like, wait a minute, this world has just gotten bigger. And that inspired me going, wow, you could always push it. You could always push the envelope. I love that show. And I was so.
What happened? What did it? It didn't make it.
Nobody watched it.
Ah, damn.
Nobody watched it.
Team, if you could come on camera and ask your question, that'd be super awesome. Joe, can you come in and ask?
Have you ever had either a completed project or very close to being completed project and then suddenly it just gets canceled? And if so, how do you work through that professionally, and how do you take that personally?
Well, as an editor and a director, you work on a TV show and you know that the end is going to happen. No show goes on more than 20, 30 seasons. Maybe Grey's Anatomy is the one show that's still going. that will never stop. But I think when you're on a project, characters, stories run out. But I remember editing on a TV series called Smith very early on in my career. It was a big deal for me. Ray Liotta, who was one of my favorite actors, was starring on the show, and Amy Smart was on it, and Virginia Madsen was on it. So all these amazing actors for CBS. It was an expensive series, not just because of the show, but it was like a heist of the week. It was being produced by John Wells, who had done ER and West Wing and Third Watch. So you have this prolific writer and these amazing actors, and it was being promoted by CBS. And the pilot aired, and nobody really watched it. The second week, the second episode, I think half the people that maybe tuned into the pilot tuned in for the second episode. And right around that time, we were editing episode 5. They decided not to even air episode 3. They called us. They're like, okay, lock the shows and wrap it up and go home. And I was heartbroken. I was so in love with the fact that I was doing a Ray Liotta series and the content and the filmmakers. So I just remember going, oh my God, that's it. The show's done. And we were more sad about the friends that we'd made in the edit bay and the content we were creating versus like being out of a job. It was more like, oh, okay, well, now we got to go find the next gig, which is normal in the freelance world. We were just so invested in the world that John and his team had created. It was really sad to see it go. And but that's show business, man. Like you just go, okay, cool. Moving on. That's a bummer. I also I worked on a series on ABC years later called Flash Forward. And it was just one of those shows that allowed me to do a lot of cool things in the edit bay. If you ever watch the show, it plays with time. You're jumping forward and backwards with a lot of these characters, kind of like what Lost did. I don't know if you guys remember that. And it just
I do, Avi. I watched Lost.
When Flash Forward got lost, I was really heartbroken. It was just one of those shows that brought a lot of joy to me as an editor because I was able to help rewrite and enhance the script in the edit bay. It was just one of those fun jobs that I'll never forget. And from time to time, I run into one of those actors who now anyway, long story short, he lives on location on where I shoot on a different show. And I just see him and we always talk about Flash Forward. Good times.
Anyone else from the team? Oh, Roxanne, right here in person. I'll ask it, Roxanne. I can be someone who's been an editor. Did you hear that? Actually, if there's any disagreements between an editor and a director at any point, how do you deal with those moments?
My initial instinct is to say, cool, let's try it your way. And then I will cut my version and then we just do a bake off. And sometimes you just gotta go, okay, the director wants it a certain way. You had it once I show them my version, and if they like it, if it's better, cool. If not, I go, at least it had to stay in court. Let's move on. I actually asked this same question to Michael Kahn, who is Steven Spielberg's editor. I asked him the same exact question. I was like, there's got to be a time when you and Steven disagree on something in the edit bay. It's just the way it works. He's like, yeah, on The Color Purple, there's a sequence where I believe Oprah Winfrey comes out. She's looking at others, looking at her. I think she had just gotten beaten or something. And Steven wanted to cut it in a very linear way where it was Oprah's point of view, then back to him, back to Oprah, her POV, back to her. And Michael was like, no, it should just be from Oprah. And then it's like a jump cut of point of views. So he did it both ways. And Steven came in and said, your version's better. And I remember going, oh, cool. That's the way to do it. Like, make sure you present both to the directors so they can like react to their original point of view, their original wish list or whatever they originally envisioned. And then best version wins.
I personally think editors make the best directors and cinematographers, or maybe videographers, shooters, DPs, because, well, from the very limited directing experience I have, it's like, and also being like a shooter and an editor, it's like, I can see the scene. So do you find that you're able to maybe do less takes or less coverage or less angles sometimes because you know how you're going to edit that scene together?
Yeah, I would also say there are like a lot of great actors who are directors. They come in and they know the language. They know how to get better performances sometimes because they speak, quote unquote, actors speak. But yes, it helps. I think like being on set and just being in the edit bay, you've gone through it a few times. You've learned from other great filmmakers, and you go, okay, no, I know how to solve this problem editorially. Let's do it this way. Or no, we don't have time for a master. The audience already knows what this set looks like. We're on season 2 of this show. If we cut into a medium, we'll still tell the story. And you know what, guys? We'll make our day. Yeah. I'd rather have 3 extra takes. I'd rather have 3 extra takes with my actor instead of getting a master shot that I probably don't even need.
Right. Well, we're rounding third, headed for home here, Avi. So I actually in 2018, you earned an Emmy nomination for directing and your producing duties on The Walking Dead. Red Machete.
Red Machete. That's
Red
right.
Machete. Yeah, tell us a bit about what working in that universe, The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead. I'm like, well, it was amazing to work on The Walking Dead just because I was a fan of the series for the first 3 years. And then I had met Scott Gimple through that show Flash Forward that I was mentioning earlier. He approached me and said, hey, I'm taking over as showrunner. I'd love for you to join the editing team. And I immediately said yes. And thanks to Scott, like he actually gave me my break on The Walking Dead. Like we spent a lot of time in the cutting room. Season 4, 5, and 6, I was an editor. Then season 7, I believe I directed either 6 or 7. Doesn't matter. So, and then Scott was again one of those guys who supported me as an editor and a filmmaker, and he saw a short that I had directed, and that led to my break. And an opportunity came for a webisode series, and he said, you know, would you be interested in this? And I was like, you already know the answer. Let's go. And what was really interesting about that series is we were able to do things that we don't normally do on the show, which is tell a story without any dialogue. If you guys get a chance to watch the web series, it's not that long. I have no idea. It's like maybe 15 minutes or so, but the entire thing is done without a line of dialogue. Maybe there's literally just one line, but it's like an iconic line from a character. So yeah, and then, you know, it was a web series that got an Emmy nomination, which was like icing on the cake and really cool. Yeah, that was it. Just another cool story we got to tell.
And so what's next? I know at this particular moment, there may not be that much happening, but you might be filming an iPhone indie feature soon. We don't know.
Might be happening, exactly.
What do you think's next for you, Avi?
What's next for me right now? I'm juggling a few things. I'm developing 2 thriller feature scripts, a pilot that I'm hoping to get off the ground within the next couple of years. While during the strike, I just want to go and shoot like a short film just to keep the creative juices flowing and hang out with some friends. And just waiting. I'm waiting for some of my favorite shows and jobs to come back.
Yeah. Well, we've got some crews in New York. If you ever find yourself here, hit us up. No, it's been awesome to have you on the In Crowd, Avi Youabian, and you know, we'll be paying attention to where you go from here, Avi. And we have loved having this conversation with you. And thank you for your time. You are definitely a member of the In Crowd.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.